Ebola again dominated the headlines last week. The Economist had some great data showing that as bad as it's been, it's about to get worse. That each week for the foreseeable future moving forward, there's going to be more people diagnosed with the virus than have been diagnosed cumulatively to date. Some of the losers here, Texas and Texas Presbyterian, who botched this terribly, and also the CDC, who no one seems to believe anymore. Some of the likely winners, the U.S., which has pledged over $750 million in the fight against Ebola and is clearly the only adult in the room that the world comes running to when a virus like this hits the world and can bring us to our knees. When you look at the data on funds pledged, some nations, including China, whose pledged amount is on par with that of Mark Zuckerberg's. And if you take Mark Zuckerberg's pledge in concert with Bill Gates and Paul Allen's, they've pledged as much together as France has. So we've clearly entered an era where tech executives have as much relevance and impact on a global stage as much of the G7. Another big winner for all of us, Nurse Nina Pham was declared Ebola-free and released from the hospital. Moving on to much less important news, Yahoo had an earnings beat. Their business was up cumulatively 1% quarter on quarter, which is better than down 3%, which is what they announced last quarter. The stock responded and was up 4.5%. However, we think this is the beginning of the end. Ms. Mara has had 2 years to show herself to be a deaf steward, and she is not. The worst acquisition in the last 5 years, which is Tumblr, and also a company that's going sideways at best in a market, digital marketing, that is growing 8 to 12% a year. Amazon had an earnings miss, which sent its stock down 9.5%. We take the other side of this. We don't believe Jeff Bezos cares what the market thinks and is going to continue his strategy of eating everything in his path. Amazon is the great white shark of retailing and is rewriting the rules of retailing and is arguably the most disruptive force in the largest economy in the world. And finally, the New York Times announced today that iPhone sales will account for somewhere between 1/4 and 1/3% of total growth of GDP this year. This device continues to be the most innovative device of this millennium. We'll speak to you next week.